Let's move on to the NBA Northwest Division preview. We're going to start with the Denver Nuggets and with their offseason overview. They re signed no one. They added Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas. They said goodbye to Michael Porter Jr. in that Cam Johnson trade. And Dario Saric was also traded as well. One thing to watch for me is minutes without Jokic on the floor. The Nuggets have been outscored by 9 points per 100 possessions in minutes without Jokic. So I think that was the last 4 seasons, by the way. Does Jonas Valanciunas fix that? That is the question and the number one thing I'm watching. Is it the same for you or something else?
I think they improved their bench. I don't think Jonas Valanciunas fixes that. I don't think he's that good of a player. I think he's just a major defensive liability.
I think he is too, but I think for 10 to 15 minutes a night, he can fix that. We're talking about Jokic still playing 35 to 38 minutes a night. He doesn't have to be a starting caliber big. Jonas Valanciunas is not that. He is a defensive liability. However, he is better and an upgrade from Dario Saric and DeAndre Jordan. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, offensively, he's an upgrade. I think defensively, it depends on what the lineup is out there with him. But I think the best part about Denver is their young players taking a step. You want to see Payne Watson improve. You want to see Julian Strawther improve. I think those are going to be the swings for them. And somebody like Bruce Brown, who they brought back, that was steady. But I think the Russell Westbrook loss is going to be a little bit bigger than people
Stop
expect.
it.
I mean, Russell Westbrook was amazing for the Nuggets. Let's not act like he wasn't.
He wasn't not good, but back to the young players point, I completely disagree. I think that was the rhetoric going into last season. They needed to step up because they had moved on from KCP and Bruce Brown the year before that. Now, bringing in all these veterans in free agency via trade as well, that shows me the young guys, I don't know if they believe in anymore. They had a season to prove it. They did not prove it, and they went out and got Bruce Brown again, Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas. I don't think the young guys need to step up as much as you're talking about.
I don't think that it's not that they don't believe in them anymore. I just think that they were forced into a role that they weren't ready for. And I think a year of experience and getting that, maybe they might be ready for it this year. But overall, like, who did the Nuggets really add? They added Tim Hardaway Jr., they added Jonas Valanciunas, they added Bruce Brown off the bench because I know Cam Johnson is starting. I'm going to be honest, I think the biggest swing for them is Deron Holmes. I think Deron Holmes can have a bigger impact on this team than Jonas.
You just asked who they added. They added basically an equal for Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson, but for $20 million less. I'm not going to sit here and argue that Cam's a better scorer than MPJ. That's not what I'm arguing, but he is a better defender. And I think he fits better on this roster. That is what they have added. And they've added more flexibility to go out and make this moves. Their ownership has been criticized for being cheap, and they are. Yes, they got off MPJ's contract because they did not want to pay it, but they did the best possible thing. They got a cheaper version of MPJ and a version that fits better.
They are better than last year. There's no doubt about it.
So
I
they can
am
take.
in.
So if they're better than they were last year, let's have that OKC conversation. Who is in the division with OKC? So if they're better than last year, a team that took OKC to a 7-game series, what does that result in this time? Another 7-game series, or does it result in a win?
It can result in a win. I don't think it will. I think OKC is better too. OKC finally has the experience.
Okay, OKC has the experience, yes, but they did not get better roster-wise. They didn't need to get better. They're the NBA champion.
They're going to get better naturally because their players are like 24, 25 years old.
That's a fair argument.
Yeah.
I think
and even with what Denver added, Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't even think he'd play on OKC. I don't even think Jonas would play on OKC. I mean, we're talking about the guys they added off the bench that I don't even think play on OKC.
Yeah, we're talking about the defending NBA champions, and we're talking about 7th, 8th, and 9th men on the Nuggets roster. Of course they would not play, Joel, on OKC. Last year, their rotation was this. Last year, the Nuggets rotation was Jokic, Murray, Brown, Michael Porter Jr. We've been over it a million times. He couldn't lift his arm. Aaron Gordon on one leg. And off the bench was Russell Westbrook and Peyton Watson. Now it's Jokic, Murray, Brown, a healthy Cam Johnson, a healthy Aaron Gordon, and off the bench, Valanciunas, Hardaway, Bruce Brown, Peyton Watson, and whatever young guys you want to talk about. Daron Holmes, who apparently is going to be their biggest contributor off the bench, in your opinion. So
no, I think it's going to be the biggest.
So how is this not going to be a 7-game series? And in my eyes, I would pick Denver. Who has the better player in the series? In my eyes, it's Nikola Jokic.
You can pick Denver in this series, but I'm still going to go with OKC. I think they just have a better overall team. And they finally got the monkey off their back. I think they're better equipped to play even better this time around. Denver, I like what they did. Cam, Bruce, and Hardaway were really good. Jonas Valanciunas, I really don't know how much he's going to contribute. Like I said, I think Deron Holmes, who coming off that ACL injury last year, I think one of those ACL or Achilles, a season-ending injury. I think this year they were hoping they were going to get that center protection last year from him, but he could be ready to play. He can defend. He's a high flyer. He's a rim runner. I just think Jonas slows the game down because he's a post-up centric center
That's
and he's slow-footed on defense. So I don't even know how valuable his 13 minutes are going to be off the bench.
okay. We can agree on that. You're making the point for me. So not only does Denver have Jonas as an option, they have Daron Holmes. They have two options to supplement their biggest Achilles heel over the last 4 years, which is when Nikola Jokic is not on the court, they get outscored by 9 points per 100 possessions. So they have two
Yes.
options now to fill that, and that's why I think they have a real shot. And why I'm picking them to beat OKC in the playoffs, at least in September, which means nothing.
They do have a real shot to beat them. I'm assuming you started with Denver first because is this your team that you're predicting to have the best record within this division?
Our conversation right here was about playoff success. Let's have a conversation about the regular season.
Well,
Record,
Denver's going to be two. Denver's going to be
yeah.
two in this
We
division.
can agree on that. They're going to be two in this division. That's my prediction. My record prediction is 56-26. That would be, I believe, a 5 game improvement from last year. What is your record prediction?
I think it's around the same. I think they can touch 60 if they take the regular season seriously. I don't think they do though. I'm going to go 55-27.
Got you. All right, we see eye to eye on the record. Let's go to the Minnesota Timberwolves, a guy you're just talking about, and Anthony Edwards. His franchise re-signed Joe Ingles on a 1 year deal, Julius Randle on that 3 year deal, and Naz Reid on that massive 5 year, $125 million extension. They added Johnny Juzang to a 1 year deal, and they said goodbye to Nickeil Alexander-Walker to Atlanta, Luka Garza to Boston, and Josh Minot to Boston as well. What is your number one thing to watch for Minnesota?
Did they get better? That's it. Losing to kill Alexander Walker, that's going to be a tough loss. They were able to keep Naz Reid. They're hopeful that Terrence Shannon Jr. could take a step in his game. The point guard position is one of the biggest question marks because Mike Conley is not producing anymore, and Rob Dillingham is waiting in the wings, but you really don't know how much you can trust Rob Dillingham because he can't defend. He's a very small player. So that's my major question mark for them. But I think there's a lot of things going for them this year. Last year, they had injuries to Randall and DiVincenzo during the season. If they can stay healthier this year, I can see them being a 50-win team. They weren't that far off from that mark last year. I think they were 1 game off. They were at 49 last season. So if they stay healthy, they can do that. But any loss they had could pretty much be offset by Anthony Edwards taking another step in his game. If Anthony Edwards is a legit MVP candidate, which I think he will be this upcoming season, then I have no question marks about Minnesota. And I think that they're going to be one of those dark horse contenders in the West.
I go back to that question mark you brought up, and that's the number one thing I'm watching. Who steps up at point guard? Mike Conley's going to be 38 by the time this season starts. Rob Dillingham, Bones Island, Terrence Shannon, Jalen Clark, one of those guys need to find their role as backup point guard or even starting point guard. They were spoiled with Nickeil Alexander-Walker because anytime Conley wasn't playing well, he would just sit his ass down and Nickeil Alexander-Walker would finish the game. Now without him, Anthony Edwards is going to have to show something he has not shown throughout his career thus far. A lot more heavy ball handling duties. We've seen how Devin Booker has handled it with a lack of team around him. Now, this team in Minnesota has a lot better supporting cast than Phoenix, but Booker has struggled at times in that area, and he's gotten a lot better in that area. I need to see that same jump from Anthony Edwards. And if I'm a betting man, I think we do. I just don't know if this is the season we see it. The record prediction I have for them is 48-34. It's 1 win less than last year. You're going 1 win over. I have them finishing third in the division.
I think third is a solid place for them. I think Denver is better.
For sure. Let's get to the bottom of this division. The Utah Jazz, they re-signed Oscar Tshiebwe. They added Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, who's probably going to get waived, Georges Niang, and Yusuf Nurkic. Said goodbye to a lot of their vets, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, and Colin Sexton. One thing to watch, and the only thing to watch, is Ace Bailey. But I'm going to be honest, Joel, if this team was playing in my backyard, I probably would not open the blinds.
It's 22-60 team and screaming that. I might be generous with 22
You
wins.
you are.
This is an awful team. This is an awful team that has no direction. Ace Bailey being your franchise player, I guess. I don't know how high I am on that because I think Ace Bailey was an overrated prospect to begin with. I think their best young player is Kyle Filipowski. I think he's their best guy, and there's really not much to root for right now with them.
Yeah, and because of that, I have them going 14 and 68.
Wow, 14 wins.
Yes. Yes, 14 and 68, finishing obviously dead last in this division. It's a Western Conference schedule too, keeping that in mind as well for a team where, in your eyes, Kyle Filipowski is the best player on, or excuse me, the best young guy on. I
Yeah,
don't
facts.
Yeah.
Because Laurie Markin
Yeah,
is
Laurie Markin is clearly the best player, but who knows how much they've been trying to sit him throughout his tenure there, and they'll probably do the same thing this year. And I don't know when these teams are going to learn. We had this conversation with Washington of tanking does not work anymore. You're talking about Dallas winning last year's lottery, Atlanta the year before, even back in 2019, the Grizzlies winning it for Ja Morant. Like tanking does not work in 2025. The odds have changed. Yes, they're still geared towards the worst teams, but it doesn't usually land that way anymore. And hopefully, teams can actually start trying to be competitive and offloading salary. And just, I couldn't imagine being a Utah Jazz fan the past 5 years. It would be very mortifying.
It's terrible. I mean, they've tried to be as bad as possible, but
Yeah,
I think that even if tanking doesn't work, quote unquote, you still have the best chance to get a high pick if you are bad. So I think that if they keep on being bad, eventually they'll land a top three pick somewhere.
hopefully they do. Portland Trailblazers is next. They added Drew Holiday via that trade with the Celtics, Damian Lillard to that 3-year deal. They said goodbye to DeAndre Ayton and Anthony Simons. One thing to watch for me is Scoot Henderson, his potential third-year leap, what happens there. Just their offense in general, I'm keeping an eye on as well. This team has a great defensive identity, but for them to take another step, it has to come from the offensive end.
Who's going to be the guy? That's my question for them.
Mhm.
Is it Deni Avdija who's going to take another step in this game?
No,
Who's getting some high praise last year because he played really well?
in March.
Is it Donovan Clingan and what he does defensively? Is it Shaden Sharp, the high flyer? Is it Scoot Henderson, the Dame Lillard replacement? And there's a lot of question marks here of who's going to step up. Is it Tomani Kamara, the two-way demon? I mean, there's a lot of things to ask right now, and they have a lot of solid young players, but I don't know who's going to be the standout.
You sitting here rattling off these players, it's like I want to talk myself into this team, but I just can't, especially in this conference, which is why I have them with a losing record yet again, 38 and 44. It's a 2-win jump from last year, but I mean, I just don't see how this team is going to be have a winning record in a conference that looks like this.
No, I think it's going to be very hard for them. If they reach 40 wins, I would be very surprised. I think they are like above like 35 wins to 38 wins, I think is where they're going to be around.
For sure. Let's get to the final team, top of this division. By the way, we had both have the Blazers at fourth, I assume, but top of this division is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They added no one, but they did re-sign Shea, Chet Holmgren, AJ Mitchell, Jalen Williams, and the other Jalen Williams as well. Only person they said goodbye to is Dylan Jones in a trade with the Wizards. Felt kind of Trey Man-esque there. They just literally didn't have room, so made a deal for him. My one thing to watch is longevity of their season and their corresponding health to go with it. They lost Chet for a chunk of it last year, didn't really affect them. If they lost a Jalen Williams or a Shea, I think this team is more equipped to stay afloat than any other team. But the longevity of the season is real. You saw it with the Cleveland Cavaliers and their two separate 15-game win streaks last year. It seems like they ran out of gas when it came playoff time. OKC now is a seasoned team. They know what it takes. So how do they go about it? The Boston Celtics trying to repeat last year, they kind of got bored for a 2 to 3 week stretch, went on a little 500 run, and then injuries derailed their playoff success. But I just want to see how the Thunder handle the season now that they've won a chip.
I agree. I think that they're still going to be a dominant regular season team because they have so much depth that they could fill in and they could play really well.
Yeah.
Chet missed most of the year, and they still were able to clear 60 wins.
Hmm.
OKC, I know we say this every year about every team that wins. Denver when they won, who's gonna beat them? Boston when they won, who's gonna beat them? OKC when they won. Now we're asking that same question. It feels like OKC is more talented than those previous two champions, though, and they are better equipped to go back to back than anybody else in recent memory. We can go back to Golden State with KD, and that's the last thing that feels like they were this good to just be able to run the league. So I think that OKC is going to go back to back this year. I think they're just the most talented team top to bottom. They finally have experience. This feels like the dynasty of the 2020s.
You're right. We have literally asked that question about every single one of these teams. Boston, we thought for certain would go back to back, especially in the conference they're in. I think Houston makes things interesting, and obviously Denver makes things interesting. OKC is going to be tested in the Western Conference playoffs, not the NBA Finals. We can sit here and banter about the Knicks making the NBA Finals, but I think if the Knicks make the finals, it'd be a massive success. I don't see any team from the East beating the Thunder, but I do see Denver, like I was talking about earlier in this podcast, making this an actual series. And you can talk about talent and everything else. I think at a certain point, it comes down to health and it comes down to winning moments. And the Thunder, they now know how to win, but I'm not going to sit here and deny the fact that they didn't have two 7 game series last year. Like that happened. Yes, the Pacers they ran through the East and they were an absolute force to be reckoned with. But this team is not so far ahead of everyone where we can sit here and say, the Thunder are the field. This is not that kind of team just yet. I'm not ready to say that. The Thunder by far should be the finals favorite, and I'm not saying I'm picking against them. However, they are not just ready to be crowned the dynasty just yet, and I'm not ready to say that at all.
They can't be crowned just yet, but I can project it. And I think they are. I mean, they have their players signed and locked and loaded. They got young players ready to step up. They got the best depth in the NBA. For Boston, there was always the Kristaps Porzingis component. And I guess that's what it is for OKC. It's the Chet Holmgren component. If he can be healthy, because he's always a risk to get re-injured. So if they stay healthy, no, I don't think any team's beating this team.
We shall see. I think the coaching thing is something to watch as well.